Hello everyone. Today we're going to make a reaction to Geography Now Moldova. Original link in the description. I'll start the video.
Hey everybody, so once again, just like the
Alright
last
then,
episode, I was
and
stupid
I'll be
and I booked
using
the wrong day for
Moldova
YouTube
flag
Studios,
as
so
a
this episode is
thumbnail,
filmed
but
in my house. The
my
audio quality is not going to be as
citizenship
good, the black
idea is
backdrop is
still
totally
not
visible, but hey, we got
clear.
some good information in this episode.
Alright,
Oh, and
but I'm
we don't make
considering
Easter, so glad of those who
Georgian,
fight for the freedom
if
of God
not
come.
then
Anyway, enjoy the
Austrian,
episode.
then
Imagine
German.
a person who
Not
speaks
German.
Russian, is
Excuse
Orthodox,
me.
eats borscht, and lives in a state that is slowly trying to introduce market enterprise in a partial state-run
Excuse
system.
me.
Chances are,
Alright.
you're Russian, right? Nope, Latin. At least in Moldova.
Moldova. I will using the flag as a thumbnail. Let's learn about Moldova.
Everyone, I'm your host Barbs.
Alright
if you don't
then.
include microstates, Moldova is the European country with the least
Moldova is the poorest
visitors.
country in Europe after Ukraine.
This episode is going to be very fun because if you know me, I love diving into the obscure, underrepresented.
Since I did Romania, so let's do Moldova
and then. So be honored because today you're about to enter the Bob Saget of Europe.
Alright then. Political.
Most people in the world probably won't be able to tell you where Moldova is on the map. If you can, congratulations, you're probably Moldova. First of all, the country is located in Eastern Europe, bordered by Romania to the west and Ukraine to the north, east, and south. Yes, Ukraine even took this 1 mile wide corridor on the lower Dniester National Park, cutting off the closest access they could have had to the Black Sea. The country is divided into 32 districts, with the capital and largest city, Chisinau, located in the south center of the country. In addition, they have
I'm not Moldovan, but could I get citizenship? Not really. I'm not sure.
Two strange autonomous territorial units, Gagauzia and Transnistria. We'll talk more about these later. The country has only one main international airport, Chisinau International. Otherwise, smaller, uncertified, or partially certified airports can be found in places like Balti and Markulești. Now, after Chisinau, if you consider Transnistria part of Moldova, then the city of Tiraspol, their capital, would be the second largest one. Otherwise, Balti would be next. And speaking of which, let's just get it over with. What exactly are those two strange autonomous guys, Transnistria and Gagauzia? Well, in the simplest way I can put it, both of these places are a little more Russian influence from the rest of Moldova, as if
right after the
USSR. Enough to begin with, but we'll talk about that later.
Moldova's official language is Romanian, but Moldovians call it Moldovan.
The Turkic Orthodox Christian background, they speak their own language, Gagauz. It's split into 4 separate enclaves made up of these localities that have over 50% Gagauz populations, including this small 2-mile wide plot of farmland next to Carvalia. Even though they politically disagree with Moldova, as in they've threatened that if Moldova tries to join the EU, they would opt out for independence and side with Russia. Regardless, they are actually pretty chill. You can visit and easily take pictures, see if you can get to one of those welcome to Gagauzia signs on the road. Transnistria, on the other hand, is a little more tricky. They actually have declared independence in 1992, which has led to military conflict in the 90s. After a ceasefire was established, they set up rules, but today it lies in a frozen conflict zone status. Today they have their own government, military, police, postal system, currency, vehicle registration. You even have to show your passport before crossing the border. And with about a third of the population being Russian, it's no surprise that they side with Russia and have Russian peacekeepers to maintain the border security. Yeah, I know. Insert your opinion in the comments below. You can find lots of
I recognize it as part of Moldova.
In fact, they're the only state in the world that still uses the former USSR hammer and sickle in their flag. Whoa, we started that, and even we don't have that anymore. Yeah, I'm just such a fan of your early work, you know. Some notable spots of interest might include places like the
Moldova is interesting country. I love Moldova.
The fortress of Soroka, Manukpeli's castle, the Ark of Triumph and Cathedral of Moldova. So many monasteries like these, the National Museum of History of Moldova, the National Museum of Ethnography, the State Circus in Chisinau, the Little Prince statue, the Jewish cemetery, Gypsy Hill, and probably the most iconic landmark,
talk about the Jewish
wine city of Malesti Mici, the Guinness World Record largest wine collection in the world with over 120 kilometers of tunnels and corridors. Yeah, they love wine. Let's talk more about resources and such in...
That's one. Physical geography.
Now, if you don't know anything about Moldova's land, one thing you definitely should know is wine. Most houses in the countryside and even some of the cities have wine cellars. It's kind of like what saunas are to Finland. Great analogy. Yeah,
Finland, I did
episode. Moldova's land is mostly situated between
I'm not sure about Ukraine.
Of the country, the Prut, which makes up the entire western border with Romania, and the Dniester with Ukraine. But then with Transnistria, a series of arbitrary lines through flat farm fields goes past the river, hence where the name Transnistria comes from, across the Dniester. The country is made up of small, short, forested hills, cut by numerous creeks and rivers, the tallest point being only 430 meters high, Balanești Hill, and all of which are part of the Moldovan Plateau, which extends into the larger Carpathian mountain chain. The largest natural natural lakes would be either the Manta and the Beliu, located right on the border with Romania. And right at the very southernmost tip of Moldova, they have a small 200-meter coast with the Danube, and their only shipping port with access at Giurgiulești, which is essentially the only indirect point of access they have to the Black Sea, which is kind of important. Whew. All right, animation is done, so you know what that means. This is time for my triple shot of espresso break. Noah takes over as co-host in this segment, so I don't end up losing my voice before this episode is over.
Brother man, I think you have a problem.
Don't care, take it away.
About half of the country is arable, and chances are no matter where you travel, you will find a vineyard. As mentioned before, Moldova takes wine very seriously. And for a nation as small as they are on the world stage, it's amazing they've ranked 12th in wine production. They even have a holiday to celebrate it. The English landscape is home to various animal species like brown bears, European hares, minxes, great egrets, white storks, and the national animal, the oryx. You can even find it on their coat of arms. Just north of the capital, you can find one of the largest gypsum caves in the world, the Emil Rakovita, containing over 20 underground lakes. Food-wise, they pretty much follow the same format as Romania. You have things like mamaliga, sarmale, and placinte. You'll notice everything kind of
Romania and Moldova are like sister countries, as according to the human logic.
Popular, as well as pickled vegetables.
I'm not Moldovan, but
after independence from the Soviet Union, trade policy changed, and for a while they had a huge inflation rate after switching currencies. Today they are classified as the poorest country in Europe in terms of GDP per capita, and to address this, they had to switch up a few things. One thing they did was they greatly loosened the foreign investment barriers to pretty much anything, as long as it didn't go against the interests of national security and order. Also, purchasing agriculture in forested lands are forbidden. Even so, not much change, and it's partially because, well, it kind of went like this.
All right, independence! Ready to take on the world.
Sweet, so what are you going to do now? You're going to open up a market economy?
Yes! Technically, I mean, I'm still gonna kind of heavily regulate wages and prices and add a few legal restrictions. But yes, privatization and whatnot.
Oh, okay. In that case, when are you going to announce this globally?
And we'll get to that later. First, I need some wine.
Yep, Moldova kind of lacks in the PR department for now. Otherwise, there is a slow but steady overall growth, but it's always kind of hindered by domestic problems. Seems like a great time to discuss more of that in
demographics.
Thank you, Noah. Follow him on Instagram. Now, it really does kind of seem like in order to understand Moldova, you kind of have to understand Romania first.
I love both Romania and Moldova. Romania is my neighbor, but I'm not sure about Moldova.
I should name myself Lomania. Someone said Lomania?
Getting off topic. Anyway, including the disputed autonomous regions of Gagauzia and Transnistria, Moldova has about 3.3 million people and has seen a decline since the peak at 3.7 in 1992. The country is made up of about three-quarters that identify as Moldovan and 7% Romanian, but in all honesty, they're pretty much the same people. After that, there is a noticeable Ukrainian minority at about 6.6%, Gagauz at about 4.6%, and the rest are mostly Russians, Bulgarians, Romani, and other groups. They use the Moldovan leu as their currency, they use the Type-C plug outlet, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now, what exactly is a Moldovan? Well, in the shortest, simplest way I can put it, unless you talk to one of the incredibly nationalistic ones that will start a debate, they're basically Romanians. They speak pretty much the exact same language, except the Moldovan might use a few Russian slang words here and there, but essentially they're pretty much just speaking the same thing. For those who don't know, the Romanian language is actually a Latin-based Romance language related to French, Italian, and Spanish. It is the easternmost Romance language in Europe. I've heard stories from Latin Americans and Romanians meeting each other, and they're kind of like, I kind of understand a bit of what you're saying. Where they differ, though, would be politics and history. This is kind of what separated them. Very similar to what happened to the Koreas. Remember those episodes? My mom was in one of them.
I will do that in September.
The Warsaw Pact, Romania never became a Soviet republic, whereas Moldova did, and then they kind of became somewhat Russified. Eventually, Romania leaned more towards capitalistic interests and eventually joined the EU. Moldova never did. So basically, what you have are two siblings that were brought up in different schools and
Romania
taught very
speak the
different
same
lessons
language.
from two drastically different faculties. Today, most Moldovans are bilingual with Russian, and you can still see hints of the Soviet past and influence, but like it's 50 times stronger in Transnistria. They are like turbo Russia fans. One way you can see the influence, for example, would be the fact that over 90% of the nation, to varying degrees of devotion, identify as being part of the Orthodox Church. Nonetheless, they still held on pretty well to their roots. They have a plethora of traditional Moldovan folk arts and music, ancient ballads like these. They have a holiday in July where everyone just kind of puts on a culture show. Moldovan ceramics and weaving culture has always been a trademark of the country's identity. Keep in mind, they also have a noticeable Gypsy or Roma community, especially in the town of Soroka. They even have a king of gypsies. This guy, he acts more of like a communal facilitator facilitator rather than an actual ruler. It's interesting though, because no matter how hard the Slavic culture has tried to permeate through their populace, they just could not let go of their passionate Latin roots. Moldovans have always kind of had like a little bit of a humorous side. They don't mope around and let life or struggle get to them. They love it when anybody notices them, and when they do, they don't hesitate to put on a show, especially when it comes to Eurovision.
Eurovision. Okay, that's copyright,
Wow. They celebrate
that
harvest
saxophone was the
festivals,
iconic
a
one.
Day, a huge music festival in March. Anyway,
And that Dragostade tea from the Ozone is also from Moldova.
Culture, the Thracians, Romans, Bulgars, Hungarians, and other tribes invade. The Mongols came by, Turks come in. Stefan the Great, the hero of the nation, wins 44 battles. They end up becoming an Ottoman vassal state. Russia comes in and annexed what they called Bessarabia. After World War I, Romania came in. They unified. After World War II, the Soviet Union came
let's talk about
a Soviet republic. Moldova becomes very Russianized until 1991 independence. The Dniester War with Transnistria, scandals, protests. They can't figure out who they want as a president for like 3 years. And here we are today. Now, I asked some of you guys, the Moldovan geographers, to give me a list of some of the most famous Moldovan people in your opinion, and here's some that you mentioned. Ozone, the guy who made that Numa Numa song, the epic sax guy, Ion Andoina, Maria Bisu, Eugen Doga, Alexandru Plamadayala, Maria Sebutari, Grigor Veru, Nikolai Skislov, Alexander Frukin, Anton Rubinstein, Samuel Zemurai, and Horst Kohler. They said he kind of counts. Alright, cool people and even cooler ties to the rest of the world, which brings us to
the friend zone. Alright then.
Yeah, as Europe's most obscure nation, Moldova has always kind of wanted to break out and show the world what they're made of. First of all, they get along with many of the other former Soviet states, especially the Caucasus ones, like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. Although business isn't that strong between them, they still love to share stories whenever they visit each other.
Well, Georgia and Bulgaria
probably the closest one, though, as they are a major trade and import partner. Many Ukrainians live in Moldova, and they've been key players in their history. Now, since independence, Moldova has always kind of been in between a tug-of-war match between Russia and the EU. Recently, Moldova has expressed a great desire to join the EU and follow the footsteps of their brothers Romania, and preference has been waning towards their former empire rulers, except in Transnistria and Gagauzia. And whenever Moldova becomes a little too European, Russia tugs harder at these two areas, which kind of keeps Moldova in a slight limbo state diplomatically. In terms of their best friends, though, almost every single Moldovan I talked to has said the same country, Romania. It's not even a friendship, it's literally a family. These two countries understand each other better than anyone else, and despite the small differences, they are one blood. Many people have family in each country, they share the same language, stories, food, and weird Eastern Latino culture. In conclusion, Moldova is like a heavily Slavic-influenced Orthodox Latino nation with two strange breakaway children, but when it gets a little too much for them to handle, they just sit down and sip the wine. Stay tuned, Monaco.
Goodbye.
Next.